try to read a little bit here before I go to sleep. Uh, Enoch chapter 69. After this, the name of the Son of Man, living with the Lord of Spirits, was exalted by the inhabitants of the earth. It was exalted in the chariots of the Spirit, and the name went forth in the midst of them. From that time I was not drawn in the midst of them, but he seated me between two spirits, between the north and the west, where the angels receive their ropes to measure out a place for the elect and the righteous. There I beheld the fathers of the first men and the saints, who dwell in that place forever. Afterwards my spirit was concealed, ascending into the heavens. I beheld the sons of the holy angels, treading on flaming fire, whose garments and robes were white, and whose countenances were transparent as crystal. I saw two rivers of fire glittering like the hyacinth. Then I fell on my face before the Lord of Spirits, and Michael, one of the archangels, took me by my right hand, raised me up, and brought me out to where was every secret of mercy and secret of righteousness. He showed me all the hidden things of the extremities of heaven, all the receptacles of the stars, and the splendors of all, from whence they went forth before the face of the holy. And he concealed the spirit of Enoch in the heaven of heavens. There I beheld in the midst of that light a building raised with stones of ice, and in the midst of these stones vibrations of living fire. My spirit saw around the circle of this flaming habitation, on one of its extremities, that were rivers full of living fire, which encompassed it. Then the seraphim, the cherubim, and Ophanim surrounded it. These are those who never slept, but watched the throne of his glory. And I beheld angels, innumerable, thousands of thousands, and myriads of myriads, who surrounded that habitation. Michael, Raphael, Gabriel, Phaeniel, and the holy angels who were in the heavens above went in and out of it. Michael, Raphael, and Gabriel went out of that habitation, and holy angels innumerable. With them was the Ancient of Days, whose head was white as wool, and pure, and his robe was indescribable. Then I fell upon my face, while all my flesh was dissolved, and my spirit became changed. I cried out with a loud voice, with a powerful spirit, blessing, glorifying, and exalting. And those blessings which proceeded from my mouth became acceptable in the presence of the Ancient of Days. The Ancient of Days came with Michael and Gabriel, Raphael and Phaeniel, with thousands of thousands and myriads of myriads which could not be numbered. Then that angel came to me, and with his voice saluted me, saying, Thou art the offspring of man, who art born for righteousness, and righteousness has rested on thee. The righteousness of the Ancient of Days shall not forsake thee. He said, On thee shall he confer peace, in the name of the existing world. For from thence has peace gone forth since the world was created, and thus shall it happen to thee forever and ever. All who shall exist and who shall walk in my path of righteousness shall not forsake thee forever. With thee shall be their habitations, with thee their lot. Not from thee shall they be separated forever and ever. And thus shall length of days be with the offspring of man. Peace shall be to the righteous, and the path of integrity shall the righteous pursue, in the name of the Lord of Spirits, forever and ever. The book of the revolutions of the luminaries of heaven, according to their respective classes, their respective powers, their respective periods, their respective names, the places where they commence their progress, and their respective months, which Uriel, the holy angel who was with me, explained to me. He who conducts them, the whole account of them, according to every year of the world forever, until a new work shall be effected, which will be eternal. This is the first law of the luminaries. The sun and the light arrive at the gates of heaven, which are on the east, and on the west of it, at the western gates of heaven. I beheld the gates whence the sun goes forth, and the gates where the sun sets, in which gates also the moon rises and sets. And I beheld the conductors of the stars, among those who precede them. 6 gates were at the rising, and 6 at the setting of the sun. All these respectively, one after another, are on a level, and numerous windows are on the right and on the left sides of those gates. First proceeds forth that great luminary which is called the sun, the orb of which is at the orb of heaven, the whole of it being replete with splendid and flaming fire. Its chariot where it ascends, the wind blows. The sun sets in heaven, and returning by the north to proceed toward the east, is conducted so as to enter by the gate and illuminate the face of heaven. In the same manner it goes forth in the first month by a great gate. It goes forth through the fourth of those 6 gates, which are at the rising of the sun. And in the fourth gate, through which the sun with the moon proceeds, in the first part of it, there are 12 open windows, from which issues out a flame, when they are opened at their proper periods. When the sun rises in heaven, it goes forth through this fourth gate 30 days, and by the fourth gate in the west of heaven on a level with it descends. During that period the day is lengthened from the day, and the night curtailed from the night for 30 days, and then the day is longer by 2 parts than the night. The day is precisely 10 parts, and the night is 8. The sun goes forth through this fourth gate and sets in it, and turns to the 5th gate during 30 days, after which it proceeds from and sets in the 5th gate. Then the day becomes lengthened by a second portion, so that it is 11 parts, when the night becomes shortened and is only 7 parts. The sun now returns to the east, entering into the 6th gate, and rising and setting in the 6th gate 31 days on account of its signs. At that period the day is longer than the night, being twice as long as the night, and becomes 12 parts. But the night is shortened and becomes 6 parts. Then the sun rises up, and the day may be shortened, and the night lengthened. And the sun returns toward the east, entering into the 6th gate, where it rises and sets forth for 30 days. When that period is completed, the day becomes shortened precisely 1 part, so that it is 11 parts, while the night is 7 parts. Then the sun goes from the west, from that 6th gate, and proceeds eastwards, rising in the 5th gate for 30 days, and setting again westwards in the 5th gate of the west. At that period the day becomes shortened 2 parts, and is 10 parts, while the night is 8 parts. Then the sun goes from the 5th gate as it sets in the 5th gate of the west, and rises in the 4th gate for 31 days, on account of its signs, setting in the west. At that period the day is made equal with the night, and being equal with it, the night becomes 9 parts, and the day 9 parts. Then the sun goes from that gate as it sets in the west, and returning to the east proceeds by the 3rd gate for 30 days, setting in the west at the 3rd gate. At that period the night is lengthened from the day during 30 mornings, and the day is curtailed from the day during 30 days, the night being 10 parts precisely, and the day 8 parts. The sun now goes from the 3rd gate as it sets in the 3rd gate in the west, but returning to the east, it proceeds by the 2nd gate of the east for 30 days. In like manner also it sets in the 2nd gate in the west of heaven. In that period the night is 11 parts, and the day 7 parts. Then the sun goes at that time from the 2nd gate as it sets the 2nd gate in the west, but returns to the east, proceeding by the 1st gate for 31 days. and sets in the west in the first gate. At that period the night is lengthened as much again as the day. It is 12 parts precisely, while the day is 6 parts. The sun has thus completed its beginnings, and a second time goes around from these beginnings. Into that gate it enters for 30 days and sets in the west, in the opposite part of heaven. At that period the night is contracted in its length a fourth part, that is, one portion, and becomes 11 parts. The day is 7 parts. Then the sun returns and enters into the second gate of the east. It returns by these beginnings 30 days, rising and setting. At that period the night is contracted in its length, it becomes 10 parts, and the day 8 parts. Then the sun goes from that second gate and sets in the west, but returns to the east, and rises in the east in the third gate. 31 days, setting in the west of heaven. At that period the night becomes shortened, it is 9 parts, and the night is equal with the day. The year is precisely 364 days. The lengthening of the day and night and the contraction of the day and night are made to differ from each other by the progress of the sun. By means of this progress the day is daily lengthened, and the night greatly shortened. This is the law and progress of the sun, and its turning when it turns back, turning during 60 days, and going forth. This is the great everlasting luminary, that which he names the sun forever and ever. This also is that which goes forth a great luminary, and which is named after its peculiar kind, as God commanded. And thus it goes in and out, neither slackening nor resting, but running on its chariot by day, and by night it shines with a 7th portion of light from the moon, but the dimensions of both are equal. After this law I beheld another law of an inferior luminary, the name of which is the moon, and the orb of which is the orb of heaven. Its chariot, which is it secretly ascends, the winds blows, and light is given to it by measure. Every month as its exit and entrance it becomes changed, and its periods are as the periods of the sun, and when in like manner is light to exist. Its light is a 7th portion from the light of the sun. Thus it rises, and at its commencement towards the east goes forth for 30 days. At that time it appears and becomes to you the beginning of the month. 30 days it is with the sun in the gate from which the sun goes forth. Half of it is extent, 7 portions, 1/2, and the whole of its orb is void of light, except a 7th portion out of the 14th portion of its light, and in a day it receives a 7th portion, or half that portion, of its light. Its light is by sevens, by 1 portion, and by half of a portion it sets with the sun. And when the sun rises, the moon rises with it, receiving half a portion of light. On that night, when it commences its period previously to the day of the month, the moon sets with the sun. And on that night it is dark in its 14 portions, that is, in each half, but it rises on that day with 1/7 portion precisely, and in its progress declines from the rising of the sun. During the remainder of its period its light increases to 14 portions. Then I saw another progress and regulation which he effected in the law of the moon, the progress of the moons, and everything relating to them. Uriel showed me the holy angel who conducted them all. Their stations I wrote down as he showed them to me. I wrote down their months as they occur, and the appearance of their light, until it was completed in 15 days. In each of its 7 portions it completes all its light at rising and at setting. On stated months it changes its settings, and on stated months it makes its progress through each gate in 2 gates. The moon sets with the sun. This is those two gates which are in the midst, and the third and the fourth gate. From the third gate it goes forth for 7 days and makes its circuit. Again it returns to the gate whence the sun goes forth, and in that completes the whole of its light. Then it declines from the sun and enters in 8 days into the sixth gate, and returns in 7 days to the third gate, from which the sun goes forth. When the sun proceeds to the fourth gate, the moon goes forth for 7 days until it passes from the fifth gate. Again it returns in 7 days to the fourth gate, and completing all its light, declines and passes on by the first gate in 8 days, and returns in 7 days to the fourth gate, from which the sun goes forth. Thus I beheld their stations as according to the fixed order of the months the sun rises and sets. At those times there is an excess of 30 days belonging to the sun in 5 years. All the days belonging to each year of the 5 years, when completed, amount to 364 days. And to the sun and stars belong 6 days in each of the 5 years. Thus 30 days belong to them. So that the moon has 30 days less than the sun and stars. The moon brings on all years exactly, and their stations may come neither too forwards nor too backwards a single day, but that the years may be changed with correct precision in 364 days. In 3 years the days are 1,092. In 5 years they are 1,820, and in 8 years 2,912 days. To the moon alone belong in 3 years 1,062 days. In 5 years it has 50 days less than the sun, for an addition being made to the 1,062 days. In 5 years there are 1,770 days, and the days of the moon in 8 years are 2,832 days. For its days in 8 years are less than those of the sun by 8 days, which 80 days are its diminution in 8 years. The year then becomes truly complete according to the station of the moons and the stations of the sun, which rise in the different gates, which rise and set in them for 30 days. These are the leaders of the chiefs of the thousands, those which preside over all creation, and over all the stars, with the 4 days which are added and never separated from the place allotted them, according to the complete computation of the year. And these serve 4 days which are not computed in the computation of the year. Respecting them men greatly err, for these luminaries truly serve in the mansion of the world 1 day in the first gate, 1 in the third gate, 1 in the fourth, and 1 in the sixth gate. And the harmony of the world becomes complete every 364 state of it, for the signs, the seasons, the years, and the days. Uriel showed me the angel whom the Lord of glory appointed over all the luminaries of heaven and in the world, that they might rule in the face of the sky, and appearing over the earth become conductors of the days and nights, the sun, the moon, the stars, and all the ministers of heaven, which make their circuit with all the chariots of heaven. Thus Uriel showed me 12 gates open for the circuit of the chariots of the sun in heaven, from which the rays of the sun shoot forth. From these proceed heat over the earth. When they are opened in their stated seasons, they are for the winds, and the spirit of the dew, which is in their seasons, they are open in heaven at its extremities. 12 gates I beheld in heaven, at the extremities of the earth, through which the sun, moon, and stars, and all the works of heaven proceed at their rising and setting. Many windows also are open on the right and on the left. One window at a certain season grows extremely hot. So also are their gates from which the stars go forth, as they are commanded, and in which they set according to their number. I saw likewise the chariots of heaven, running in the world above to those gates in which the stars turn, which never set one of these is greater than all, which goes round the whole world. And at the extremities of the earth I beheld 12 gates open for all the winds, from which they proceed and blow over the earth. 3 of them are open in the front of heaven, 3 in the west, 3 on the right side of heaven, and 3 on the left. The first 3 are those which are towards the east, 3 are towards the north, 3 behind those which are upon the left, towards the south, and 3 on the west. From 4 of them proceed winds of blessing and of health, and from 8 proceed winds of punishment, when they are sent to destroy the earth and the heaven above it, all its inhabitants, and all which are in the waters, or on dry land. The first of these winds proceeds from the gate termed the eastern, through the first gate of the east, which inclines southwards. From this goes forth destruction, drought, heat, and perdition. From the second gate, the middle one, proceeds equity. There issue from it rain, fruitfulness, health, and dew. And from the third gate northwards proceed cold and drought. After these proceeded the south winds from 3 principal gates. Through their first gate, which inclines eastward, proceeds a hot wind. But from the middle gate proceed grateful, odor, dew, rain, health, and life. From the third gate, which is westwards, proceeds dew, rain, blight, and destruction. After these are the winds to the north, which is called the sea. They proceed from 3 great gates. The first gate is that which is on the east, inclining southwards. From this proceed dew, rain, blight, and destruction. From the middle direct gate proceed rain, dew, life, and health. And from the third gate, which is westwards, inclining towards the south, proceed mist, frost, snow, rain, dew, and blight. After these, in the fourth quarter, are the winds to the west. From the first gate, inclining northwards, proceed dew, rain, frost, cold, snow, and chill. From the middle gate proceed rain, health, and blessing. And from the last gate, which is southwards, proceed drought, destruction, scorching, and perdition. The account of the 12 gates of the 4 quarters of heaven is ended. All their laws, all their infliction of punishment, and the health produced by them have I explained to thee, my son Methuselah.